Hello, this is Dan from Guitar from the Heart, and today I want to talk to you about vibrato. A couple weeks ago, I did a video on vibrato, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth today. Basically, I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea that when you're playing vibrato, you want to actually make sure you're playing vibrato. Now, what do I mean by this? Sometimes when we're playing and we try to use vibrato, we can make the mistake of thinking we're vibrating when we're not. So, for example, when I'm playing, say if I'm playing a couple of phrases, I'm going to pause and I'm going to vibrate at certain points, right? During times when my phrase pauses a little, I'm going to vibrate in those sections. So like, say if I was playing this little phrase here. So I know I'm going to hang on that note there, right? So I'll vibrate. The second time, I know I'm not going to hang on a note as long, so I won't vibrate. Second time, I'm not vibrating because there's not enough time. But when I know I'm going to pause, I'm going to vibrate. A pretty good idea to use this kind of approach when you're playing in general. If you're going to pause and hang on a note, you might want to vibrate there. Or depending on how you feel, you might not want to vibrate. It depends on what kind of a mood you're trying to set there. But what happens to us oftentimes when we're playing is we might become guilty of not vibrating when we think we are. So what happens is, and I see a lot of players do this. I see a lot of players do this, and I'm also guilty of it. Okay. The hand is moving, doing the vibration motion, but the string is not moving. So like that same phrase there, I'm being very deliberate to not only move my hand, but to listen with my ear to make sure that I hear the fluctuation in pitch. Do you hear that? I'm listening for the fluctuation in pitch, and I'm being very deliberate to make sure that even that the fluctuation in pitch is consistent. I'm not all over the place, you know. I'm not all over the place. I'm sticking with one consistent oscillation. I'm gonna bend the string as much on each oscillation or each vibration, the same amount each time. But what can happen to us sometimes is we can mistakenly do something like this. So you see the hand is moving. The string's not moving in proportion to our hand. So basically today's message, in keeping with seeking to play from our heart and to keep it emotional when we play, to play with more meaning, listen with your ear when you're playing. Be careful not to just think you're playing something, because sometimes there can be a disconnect between what we're hearing in our heads, right? So like I'm hearing my head and I'm like da da da, and I'm hearing a vibration on the end of that note in my head, but my hand doesn't actually do it. But I'm moving my hand and I think I'm doing it, but I'm not actually doing it, right? So we want to avoid that disconnect, and we want to use our ear to get feedback from what we're playing, to actually be sure that we're hearing externally what we're hearing internally inside our head. Right there, when I'm hanging on that note, I'm being extremely deliberate about how I listen to what I'm doing there. And this is a good way to avoid thinking you're playing with vibrato when you're not. Now, another thing that can cause you to falter a little, I've noticed over the years is that if you don't land on a note well, it's very hard to vibrate. So, one foot before the other. Land on your note well, own that note, and then when you're in position, you can vibrate well. So if you kind of don't land in the right spot on a fret, or you land on a note awkwardly, or your hand position is a little off when you land on that note, it makes it very harder to get a consistent vibrato. So keep all those things in mind when you're playing, and try to make sure that all of your techniques are being performed well. Your hand position, your hand position is good for wherever you are on the neck. You're landing on a note, you're fretting the note well, you're pressing a note down before you strike the string with the pick, and when you're actually vibrating, you have a consistent vibrato. Okay, so I hope that little insight will help you to express yourself a little bit better on your guitar, and to help you a little bit more to have fun and play the guitar from your heart.